Sorry that I had to cut him short a little bit, but we have a program and we have a very interesting speaker right after Doug. And he also is a veteran from our previous event. So it's with the greatest pleasure that I would like to welcome back with us Scott Paton. And also, I'd like to remind you and inform you that Scott Paton is also from Canada. He's the executive producer of Designer Web Solutions. He's an international speaker, of course. Scott launched his first online video course in January 2014. And now has over 300,000 students in 200 countries enrolled in one of his 130 courses. Scott works with time-strapped experts who want to reach thousands of excited students with a proven 3-hour production process. His range of subject areas is wide, including stock option trading, alternative health, EFT, weight loss, very interesting that, golf, financial planning, real estate, marketing, and relationship. The title of his speech is "The World is Your Stage," and for an extroverted like me, I like this title very, very much. And you are right now on. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, Fabio, nice to be here.
Thank you for being patient, but you know Doug, and he is just fantastic in his activities. So,
boy, his energy is just through the roof, and you're going to find me the polar opposite, probably.
I don't believe that. I saw you. I know what you can do. So, as we like to say, you are free.
Thank you. And you're all free too. And I really appreciate all the interaction that's been going on in the group. And so I would appreciate it if you would just put kind of a hi in the chat so that I know that you're there. I happen to be in Medellin, Colombia during this lockdown, and it's one of my favorite places in the world after actually the Philippines. As Fabio said, I was there last year, and I'm kind of, hi, Leanne, thank you. There's a number of things that I really want to touch on in my time with you today, and I really would like you to get out a piece of paper or your notebook, have a pen, and I want you to make some notes. And the notes are not for me, they're for you. And I've thought a lot about, over the last 4 or 5 years ago, my youngest son left home, he bought a house, and I had an epiphany. This was the first time in my life when I had no responsibilities. I had both of my sons living with me. I was a single dad for pretty close to 10 years. And now my mom was healthy, my sister was healthy, my children were healthy, my friends were healthy, and I had no ties to where I was. And my dream was to travel the world. So a couple months later, I flew off to Morocco, and I spent the following 2 years wandering throughout Europe, North Africa. I got as far south as Kenya. And then a couple things brought me back to North America. And while I was in North America, the Freedom Summit happened, and I couldn't say no. So I came over to the Philippines and Southeast Asia for a good month. And when I got back, I decided I really wanted to see South America. I got to Colombia when we had this shutdown. And basically, I have set my life up to be able to do my work anywhere in the world, because what I wanted to do was spend some quality time in other countries to see the beauty of those countries, to meet the people, to experience different cultures, different languages, and it's been just amazing. And so that's kind of where I come from. I don't have massive income goals. I just want to have enough money to be able to live comfortably, to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to live. And that's really what I'm going to be talking to you about, because one of the things that places like Canada, I'll just talk about my Canadian experiences. There is a stigma around wealth and poverty. And the idea is that the wealthy people work really, really hard, and the poor people are lazy. And I was so shocked to see how deep that belief was ingrained subconsciously, unconsciously in me, because it wasn't something that if you asked me, I would have said, right? But as I was going through Africa, it was in Kenya. I was in Kenya. I was on one of the highways, which was really just a 2-lane road. And I'm watching this guy at noon in 105-degree weather with no shoes, pulling a cart by himself down the road. And I'm looking at this and I am thinking, I would never work that hard. And I'm sure he's only making pennies an hour or dollars a day. Like because he obviously he didn't have any money. And it really sort of flipped me in how I looked, not and how I unconsciously looked, because I would never have said I looked at people this way. About wealthy countries versus countries that are, let's just say, are struggling that way. And what I realized was there was 2 problems. One was there's the system that the Kenyans that I saw were in wasn't one that supported them getting out of poverty. Okay, so there's a systemic issue. And then the other issue is, this is normal for me, and I'm supposed to be walking down the highway at 105 degrees Fahrenheit in the blazing sun, pulling a cart full of wood and other things. And so it's difficult to do anything about the systems. Like when I was in Tunisia, I was teaching a group of 20-something, 30-somethings about entrepreneurship and businesses and everything else. And in their case, you can't get a PayPal account. So all of a sudden, a lot of the ways that you could get paid were gone because the company banned PayPal accounts. So that was a systemic problem that they had to solve. So I want you to look at your own lives and say, how much of what my issues are around the system that I'm in, and how much are around my beliefs. And you can work with your politicians and everything else to try to spit the system. But once you understand the system you're in, then you can do something about it, right? And that includes for the big system you're in, and it also includes your own belief systems. So when you're going through and wanting to be free, what does that look like for you? Okay. For me, it looked like, making a couple grand a month. And because I'm living in places where I'm on the 9th floor of a building, I'm in a studio apartment, which is half of the 9th floor. The other half of the 9th floor is a terrace. It has a hammock. So I go out and I sit on my hammock. I look up at the stars. I look up at the sky. I look at the beautiful mountains around me. Hopefully you can see a little bit of the night sky. That's the mountains with the lights on it. And it's pretty nice. And one of the things that's important is that you just heard was, if you serve a lot of people, if you help a lot of people, you get rewarded. Okay. So a couple years ago, a friend of mine said, I have a client, Scott, who has a problem. And I look at myself as a problem solver, right? And can you help them? They need to have a podcast. They need to have this, they need that. I said, sure, I can help them, right? And 2 years later, I'm still looking after that client. I'm producing their podcasts. I'm producing their YouTube videos. I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff. They have me on their marketing team now. And he told his friend what was going on with him and what he was doing. And the friend wanted me to do the same thing. And then he told another friend, and he told another friend, and he told another friend. And the next thing you know, instead of just having one client and kind of, going through life, everything is easy, I can handle all the work in a couple hours a day, I had 6 clients. And that was way, way too much work for one person. And I had tried, I'd been 20 years as a grocery store manager. I had 300 employees. I had 22,000 customers going through the turnstiles every week. When I left that 20 years ago, I didn't want to work with anybody. I wanted to be alone. I'm as Fabio said, he's an extrovert. Well, I'm an introvert that sometimes acts extroverted. And I didn't want to have a team. That was just awful, right? But a friend of mine was watching what was going on and said, you need to get some help. You're working too hard. And so she ended up finding 2 Filipino VAs for me, and then she ended up managing them. And now she's found 3 more, and I now have a team of about 7 VAs, all of whom actually are in the Philippines, who are helping me to help our clients, right? And so we're growing this team, and it's been a wonderful experience. And I share that because she didn't have to help me, but she had a servant's heart, and she was seeing what was going on, and she says, look, let me help you. And she was doing it all. And I just turned around one day and said, all of a sudden, like, hey, Trixie is actually managing my team for me and looking after everything. Like, we need to formalize this relationship, because it was like almost volunteer work for her. And hi, Carissa. And that's what we did. So now I have a manager, I have a team, and we're growing, because now I can handle more and more and more people. I can serve more and more people, and more money is coming in. So the takeaway, the key takeaways that I want from this part of my conversation with you is, you never do anything alone. Even if you're the only person in the room. Like right now, I'm the only person in the room. But Cecilia is looking after me, making sure that you can see me. Fabio is hosting. Somebody made this platform, and somebody's maintaining this platform. And we have the internet, and somebody's making sure that the fiber optics work, so that I can actually have my image here in South America appear in the Philippines or Southeast Asia, or wherever in the world you happen to be watching right now. So we're never alone. We think we are, but we never are. So the next question is like, what sort of people do you want to have on your team, right? And in my case, I want people who are hardworking, that are lifelong learners, because that's kind of what I am. That have a servant's heart, that want to serve people, that want to help people, want to make a difference in the world. And I have this list. So I'm a big list and goal setting person. I think you need to set goals, and then you need to not worry about whether you achieve them or not, because when you set the goal and you work towards that goal, your subconscious mind makes 95% of the decisions that go on, right? So 5% is our conscious mind. And this is one of the reasons why I want to be a millionaire. I really want to be a millionaire. It doesn't really work, because most of us have this conscious mind that says, yes, I want to be really successful, and a subconscious mind that says, I'm very comfortable right here where I am, because this is safe. I'm living, even though it may be a terrible situation, right? So you have to understand that when you want to know what you really believe, you take a look at your life and you see where you're at. And if you're not where you want to be, then you have to start working on your belief system and on yourself, because you have what you want, okay? And the question isn't, how do I get something else? The question is, why do I want what I have? Okay, so if you've got a bad relationships, if you've got a bad job, if you've got a bad situation, like if you start from, hey, this is what I want, okay? Because I have what I want. Why do I want this? Okay, and how can I work with my subconscious to get something different? And it's not something that takes a minute to do. It's something that's a lifelong journey, and it's well worth it. And when I started traveling on Facebook, I would post pictures when I was in Egypt, or when I was in Poland, or when I was in Norway, or when I was in Costa Rica or Mexico. And one of my friends who I was very close with in 2003 and 4 messaged me one day and said, congratulations, it's so exciting to see you living the life of your dreams. And I was like, thank you, but I don't understand. The way she said it made me sort of stop and think. And so I messaged her back. I says, well, what do you mean finally? And she says, well, when we were talking in 2003, so 17 years ago, this is what you talked about. This is what you wanted to do. This was the direction. So the bad news is that I'm not an overnight success. It took me 17 years to get here. And there are reasons why. I made a commitment to stay in one place to look after my sons as they grew up. I didn't want them to have instability. So for, 15 of those 17 years or 14 of them, I stayed in one place because I had made that commitment, right? So you need to look at yourself and see where you are in your life. And sometimes it's like, this is where I am. I've made a commitment to my family, and I'm not going to be able to make a commitment to being a whatever else it is that you want in your life, right? So we're all here because we want to have freedom, right? And I want to talk a little bit about, freedom for everybody is a little bit different, right? What is it for you? And it might be great to, so I think it's over there, put in the chat, like, what does freedom mean for you? And for me, it means having enough money to do what I want to do without having to spend 24 hours a day creating it. And there's a combination here of passive incomes, which are incomes that come in. Basically, you do something once and the income comes in over and over again. An example of that would be books. Like, a lot of times people will write a book, they'll put it up on Amazon, and maybe they sell, 15 or 20 books a month of that book. And maybe they make, I don't know what they would make. Maybe they make a couple $100 or whatever, but they made the book. They don't do anything else. And this $200 comes in and comes in and comes in. And so and let's just say that's what happened. When you wrote a book, you put it up on Amazon, you made $200. Well, let's even say $100. Well, if you wanted $1,000, what do you have to do? Write 10 books, right? I'm a firm believer in massive action gives you massive results. So Fabio had mentioned that I am a video course producer. I didn't mean to be one. It wasn't one of my lifelong goals. But a friend of mine said, Scott, you're a podcast trainer. You're like one of the first people. 2005, I started podcasting and started teaching people about it. You need to do a video course. And I said, well, I have a 3-page PDF that explains it. And he sort of looked at me and said, no, make a course. So I did, and made this course. And in the process of making this course, it was like there was a closed door in my room of my box that I'm in, because we're all in boxes. And it opened up, and it was like, wow, like, there's a great opportunity for online training by making these courses. So I told some of my friends and some of my clients, and a bunch of them jumped on. Before you knew it, I had 5 courses to do. I had recorded them. Actually, I needed to edit them. I had done everything for my own course. And I thought, if I have to edit these, they'll never get done. It's not going to happen. So I found a video editor who happens to live 4 hours outside of Manila. I'm not sure which way. And so for 5 years, Sherry has been editing my videos. I create the videos, record the videos with my clients, with my co-instructors, upload it to a server. She downloads it. She finishes it all up and posts it on Udemy or on YouTube, depending on what we make. And she does an amazing job, a way better job than I could do, right? And this was part of the cracking of my self-belief about I have to do everything alone, right? Because she started it, right? She was my very first support person in my business. So now I have over 130 courses. I have over 340,000 students. I have over 1 million. No, it's not. Is it 1 million? 1 million enrollments, which means people have taken more than one of my courses. And it's absolutely amazing to me that this had happened, because I had no idea. But it opened up a whole bunch of doors, because as a course producer, and particularly one who had a course on podcasting, I called it Power Podcasting at the time, it positioned me as an expert. And now, instead of knocking on doors, hey, do you want a podcast? Hey, do you want a podcast? Hey, do you want a podcast? No, thanks, no, thanks, no, thanks. It was, Scott, we heard about this thing called podcasting, and we understand you're like one of the world's top experts on it. Can you consult with me? Can you help me? Can you whatever, right? And so I ended up coming up with a program that made it easy. In other words, a template that made it easy for people in 3 hours to create a course. And then I also made it easy for people to create podcasts or video shows and that sort of thing. And it grew. And that's right, love. Success is not overnight, but you humbly work on it without counting the time and cost. Thank you, love. That's absolutely right. So my point in all of this was, first of all, you need to be an expert. Okay. When I was at the first, let's just say the first, because it wasn't the last, and this isn't going to be the last either, Freedom Summit, I would be talking to people and say, like, who are you, right? Or like, what is your job, or how do you what do you call yourself, right? And VA was the word that they used. Okay. So I think that's a huge mistake. You should not call yourself a VA, because in Canada and the United States, a VA is somebody you pay $5, maybe $10, that does a bunch of work. And that's going to be really hard to make a living, right? And usually they don't get the $7. Usually they get, less. I don't know how that all works with Upwork and everything else, but you're not going to be making the full amount. And that's a low paying job. Whereas you may be really, really good at managing calendars, like someone's calendar and their schedule, or you may be really good at finding great places for people to stay when they travel, or you might be great at editing something, text or editing videos or whatever. And I had a friend contact me, and he was trying to get people to join his podcast. And he says, like, Scott, what do I call myself? Right? Like, I'm kind of like I'm the host. I do everything. And I said, Dov, you are an executive producer. You are the executive podcast producer of the Dov Barron Show. And you could tell he's chest puffed up and he was all proud of, yes, I'm the executive producer. And that's what you have to do. You have to give yourself a subtitle that is like a high prestige. And I don't actually know what the right word is, right? Like, I'm an executive podcast producer. I'm an executive course producer. And what that means is that I do a lot more than just push the record button. And it sounds really good. If I just said, hey, I'll make your podcast for you and edit it, then okay, well, here's a couple $100, right? But my clients pay way, way more than that each month for me to look after their stuff for them, right? So I have, first of all, the massive action. I've done 50 odd podcasts as a host, as a producer, as a co-host. I have over 130 courses that I've created. So when it comes to producing all of this stuff, there's no doubt, right? And I never tell anybody what I do. The only people that I work with are people that are recommended by my clients. If you don't know my client, you're probably not going to be working with me. And hi, Ricky. Good to see you too, buddy. And so I'm very, very clear on who my ideal client is. My ideal client is somebody who has very little time and is willing to spend 1 hour a week with me to create a bunch of content that becomes part of his podcast, part of his YouTube channel, part of his blog, part of his next book, part of his next course. And then we end up creating that. I create a plan for them, and then that's what we create, right? Then they're very happy because they know exactly. I tell them, this is what you're going to be talking about this week. And then I push the record button. They talk blah, blah, blah about it. I push the stop button. They say, thank you very much, Scott. See you next week. Because they don't have time to learn video editing, to learn how to make a podcast, to learn how to set up this stuff, how do you get a transcription? How do you edit a transcription? How do you make a good title? I mean, how do you make good images that go with it and all the rest of it? So that's my job, right? And so I look after everything for them. And what happens is I need help. So fortunately, Trixie and it looks after finding the help for me, because she's in the Philippines and she knows lots of people, and it works out really, really great that way. So, but if you want to create freedom in your life, you need to think about, okay, how am I positioning myself? And you need to position yourself as an expert, which means you need to become an expert at something. All right. And what is that? So there's lots of things that you're good at now. You need to sit down, be self-aware, get out your pen and paper and start writing down. These are the things that I'm good at. What do I want to learn? We live in an amazing time. You can go on to YouTube and you can find out a ton of stuff about anything. So as long as you have, you know, a Wi-Fi connection that you can use, because if you're using data, I think that could be a little expensive, you can learn. So then you pick on something that you want to learn. And I do a lot of video editing, you know, still, even though Sherry does most of mine, I still dabble in it, everything else. And lately I've been going on YouTube and watching videos on how to do stuff on Final Cut Pro. And I'm amazed, right? Because like, wow, I've had no training on it. And I also like to take pictures, and I have an Olympus camera, and I found two guys that post every week on Olympus cameras and how they take pictures and how they manually set and do all these things. So I'm starting to learn that, and there's no cost to it, right? So I think there's no excuse for not learning and practicing some skill, and you need to learn and practice one skill. Get really, really good at that one skill, okay? And it could be, you know, how to do Facebook ads. It could be search engine optimizing, keyword research, or whatever. And if you become like the number one person in that field, and you're never the number one person, right? But you're the number one person for a lot of people because they don't know who the number one person is and they can't find them ever. Then you're going to be able to serve a lot of people. And that's the trick. Now, I don't really recall how much time I have, so, or when I'm supposed to be done. So if Celia could just pop it in the private chat and let me know. I said the world is your stage, okay? So I want to share with you some 3 streams of income that you could start on now. And unfortunately, tomorrow you won't be a millionaire if you do this. Probably in a month or even a year, you won't be. But I think if you persist at it, you will find that you're starting to create. First of all, what happens when you start creating stuff is you learn. You learn how to do it, you learn how to do it better, and you become a lot better at it. And when you do that, people want some of it. Like there's somebody that needs every skill possible in the world. And if you're really good at doing that, then they're going to be looking for you, and hopefully they can find you and you can do it. But having said that, the others, that's just working for someone and being of service. And that's a big part of who I am. The other part of it is passive income. Okay. And the way that you do that is like you write a book and put it on Amazon. But I've found 3 passive income streams that I think are really easy for you. Now, if you don't have a video camera, or you don't have a regular camera, this is what I talk about being a team. Find somebody that does do that, okay? So you don't have to do the work. You just have to get the work done. So stream number 1 is Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime will pay you pennies per minute watched, okay? But 4 years ago, I put, I don't know, 5 hours of content up on Amazon Prime to see, and I was amazed. I was making $50 a month. And I thought it would decrease and decrease over the years. But for 4 years, every month, they send me $50. So what would happen if I put 10 times more content up? It'd be $500, right? So maybe I'd have to put 20 times the content up. Who knows? Like some are hits and some aren't, right? But this is what I mean about massive action. Like 20 times the 4 hours I put up is not massive action, right? So but what do you put up? Well, one thing I put up was a video of birds in Colombia, which is about as boring as it gets. And I got tons of views on it. So you're in a gorgeous country. You can take pictures, you can take videos, you can show it all off, you can get it produced nicely and put it up on Amazon, and you could put thousands of hours up on Amazon Prime, and you and your team would be getting whatever amount of money that is and split it up. And it would be significant because you'd be getting paid on doing it once. And then every month you're going to get this check. Now, if you're adding more and more and more, then that's great. But if you stopped one day, the income doesn't stop, it just continues. And I think that's important. Second one is low content books or calendars. Like you can take beautiful pictures of beaches, make a calendar, put it up. Beautiful pictures of whatever, birds, put it up. Sunsets, put it up. And you can make calendars, you can make journals, all those sorts of things. And they're easy to make. And there's more people doing it now than maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but it's still an insatiable appetite. And once you get in, you can find little niches that are not being served, which would be, maybe stockbrokers need a journal or something. So you do one that looks like stockbrokers journals and put it up, and there you've got it going on. Let me just check and see what my third one. Oh, t-shirts. So you find an artist, they make a nice design, you make a t-shirt, and people are always looking for t-shirts, right? So you do Father's Day t-shirts, you do Funnies t-shirts, whatever. Again, it's massive action. And once you've made the design, the work is all done, and then it's up to the t-shirt companies to sell your designs. So there you go. My 3 takeaways was you never do anything alone, multiple streams of income, and you want to set your life up so you don't depend on any employer. Everything ends, okay? So, Udemy, maybe tomorrow they get bought out by somebody and they decide they don't want to do online courses and something else happens, right? So you can't assume that everything you're doing is going to continue. If you're working for someone, one day you won't be working for that person. It's just the nature of the beast. So you want to make sure that you set yourself up so that you have multiple, but do one stream at a time. Like get really good at one thing, like low content books or journals and that sort of thing first before you go on to another one. Make sure it's established before you go and do other things. But you want to, even if you are working for somebody, then start looking at some skills where you can create your own content, whatever it is, whether it's video or images or books or blog posts or whatever it is, in order so that if something happens and all of a sudden, like in the United States, 40 million people went on unemployment. Well, most of those people did not have a side hustle, did not have a side job, and are, in dire financial straits. If they had something on the side that wasn't dependent on location, okay, so we're talking about the internet, then that would work out really good for them. So the world is your stage. You can create tons and tons of amazing video content. You can be the star of it if you want. Someone else can be the star of it if you want. And the information, the creation, whether it's educational or entertainment, will go around the world. And so we have an amazing opportunity to create the life that we want. And I wish you, hopefully you've been inspired, sort of think of things a little bit differently in our time together. And I like to give my time, share my time, and teach. But I have not put into place any sort of program, get this and we're going to change your life, because I'm too busy doing what I'm doing. But I really see opportunities for all of you to live the life that you want. And if you have any questions or anything else, my email is below. And if you email me, I'll answer and help you as much as I can.
Thank you so much. Tinkering with am I on? Yes, I am on.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Scott. What I can say about your presentation is that rang genuine. You really sounded like somebody that actually went through all the experiences that you went through, and you decided exactly where you wanted to be. When you wanted to take responsibilities for your family, you did. When you were working in a very fast-paced corporate world, you were there. And then, you had the time to experiment and do other stuff. And I think this is quintessential Freedom Summit Global, because yes, we are looking for success, but success can be defined in so many ways. It doesn't mean to have $50 million in the bank. It doesn't seem to have a major multinational empire, but it's to be at the time of your life. And this is something that maybe the two of us can understand a little bit better, because maybe we've been around the block a few times. Yes. There are many of those who follow us, including Celia, who is very young, very, very young, that maybe they still have to experience that. But I think that looking back in your life, there was a moment for everything. And freedom is to do whatever you feel doing it, aligned to it, considering the responsibilities, because you have taken responsibilities to your family, to your career, to your people, and so have I. But I think you can understand that also in retrospective, and it's much easier. But freedom, as I was saying before, is all about options. And you have given options to people. You have given many different ways of understanding how you can be free, how you can be successful, how you can be you. And also, we like to think that we never change, and there's a part of us that never changes. But also, we want to be different people and different persons in different moments. And I think that came through so genuine and so crystal clear that I was almost moved to tears.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Fabio.
Because it was not absolutely fake. So I would like, what's going on? Celia is pushing the button.
Celia is in control. She's in control.
She's in charge, and I know she's going to be coming out very soon. But I would like to thank you very much for being with us. I'm hopefully going to see you again next year or even earlier, because we have connected. You have been working with Filipinos that you have met during the last event, correct?
Yes, yes. And I hope to, my plan is to get back to the Philippines in November, as long as we're allowed to come and fly and everything else. And so that's my goal. And thank you very much for having, I will be here every time you ask. There's never going to be any doubt in my mind that I think that what you're doing is really important, and it's changing people's lives, and it's aligned with my life goals and my philosophy of life too. And so I really want to support everybody there as much as I can. And so when Celia asked me about this, it was an immediate yes. Don't care when or where, just tell me what I need to do and I'll be here. And hopefully everyone's got something.
You have given us many nuggets of wisdom, and I would like to say goodbye to you on one of them that I wrote down: no excuse for not learning. I think this is a fantastic one. And, you know, I think there's an American way of saying you can't teach an old dog a new trick. But my experience that even this old dog has learned so many new tricks when other people thought they couldn't. And I enjoy myself. And what I enjoy in the road of being a digital entrepreneur is that every day I'm learning a new skill. And it's not easy. it's not very an easy process, but the achievement and the fulfillment of learning is something that gives me joy, and I think it gives joy to you as well.
It does. It does. Learning is great. And also when you're teaching somebody something and they go, oh, now I get it, is also a really good moment for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon, Fabio. Bye-bye. Thank you, Celia. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Good luck and enjoy the rest of the Freedom Summit.